Hot flashes and night sweats and irregular or heavy periods, brain fog, mood changes, irritability, vaginal dryness, low libido, all of these things, urinary incontinence, insomnia, fatigue, and hair loss. Oh my, what am I talking about? Perimenopause. It's a significant transition for many women in their early 40s, but it's not very understood until now. We're going to talk about it today on The Bravehearted Woman. Hey everybody, this is Damon, and this is my show, The Bravehearted Woman. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, each week I bring important topics for women just like you to help you live with courage and confidence and bold vision for your future. So make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm always giving out free resources that empower you. So you ready? Come on, let's get brave. Well, my guest today is a powerful business entrepreneur and the go-to resource for women during perimenopause and menopause. She's the founder of Hot or Just Me, an online shop for managing perimenopause and menopause. She offers products, expert advice, and community support. Now, she's inspired by her own experiences with perimenopause, like hot flashes and brain fog and anxiety. I know that one. Insomnia, night sweats, and so much more. And her mission is to empower women to navigate these life transitions with confidence. Please welcome to Bravehearted Woman, my guest today, Carin Luna-Ostaseski. Hey, Carin.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well, thank you for coming aboard. We're really excited about your message today and what you offer. My audience is women who are about midlife and beyond. And I know this is a subject that really affects so many of them. I said before we started recording, my daughters are experiencing this perimenopause and all the things. But you are a businesswoman. And then you kind of changed career paths. So tell us a little bit what brought you to this particular career path.
Yeah, so I am 47 years old, and my hot flashes started in my early 40s. And there was this simple question, and often asked to pretty much everyone around me was, hey, is it hot or is it just me? And that led me to realize first that it was mostly just me. And also that I was well into perimenopause. So I had other symptoms that followed, like brain fog, anxiety, hair loss, low libido. And when I went to my first doctor, I wasn't getting the right answers. He was mostly just prescribing me one-off heavy medicines for some of these symptoms and not really taking into account my age, my stage of life, my hormones. So I found the right doctor and started talking more about perimenopause. And along the way, I found some really amazing products and services that made a huge impact in my life. So I thought, what better way than to share this with other women so that we don't have to suffer alone? So that's how Hot or Just Me was created.
That's awesome. And I have asked that question many times, and I still do at my age. Those hot flashes want to drag on and on. Now, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions really about perimenopause. Like you just said, your doctor really didn't have an understanding. Sometimes we're not trained for this in medical school. So, how can we debunk these myths? Well, first of all, what are they? And how can we help women going through this stage?
Yeah, I think a couple of the biggest ones would be that doctors know what they're talking about. So you touched on a little bit, and the fact remains that in the United States, doctors receive 3 hours or less of training in menopause throughout their residency. So 3 hours, like we watch movies that are longer than that.
Right?
And yet this affects half of our population, 51%, and 100% of us will go through this, right? So how is it that our doctors are so poorly trained on this? And so the antidote to that, I'd say, is to go to a website called menopause.org, and that'll be in the show notes, where you can find a practitioner who is certified in menopause and hormones and has gone through that extra level of training for this stage in life, which is it's critical. These doctors, if you can't find someone in your geography, I encourage women to go online. There's many virtual doctors right now or telehealth options like MIDI Health. There's Alloy, there's Evernow. So wonderful options. And most of these are covered by insurance. So there is help and resources in finding the right doctor. So I think that that first myth is that my doctor knows exactly what he or she is talking about, and maybe they haven't really gone through the training that they need. The second one being around just terminology, right? So you say like I'm in menopause or what is perimenopause? So just a little bit of vocabulary lesson. I would say menopause is just one day, and that's the day that you haven't gotten your period for 12 months. And for many women, this is confusing. For many women, they are haven't gotten their period in years for many reasons. So, it's not to say like, am I in menopause? So it's very hard to understand when. And then perimenopause is the years that lead up to that day. And that could be anywhere between 3 years to 11 years. And on average, women will experience perimenopause symptoms for about 7 years. And a variety of symptoms. There's about 100 common symptoms that have been identified. I'm going to give you the top 10. So the first one being irregular periods. This is, your period has become heavier than usual, or maybe lighter than usual, or the cycle dates have changed, or the flow consistency. So just something has changed. That was my first weird Google search is why are my periods so heavy?
Yeah.
And
Same.
then, yeah, then, kind of hand in hand would be hot flashes and night sweats. So hot flashes is this warming feeling in your face, your neck, your shoulders, your back. It just feel like overheated, and yet no one else is. You're the only one in a tank top while everyone's wearing sweaters. And then, because your body thinks it's heating, sweats will follow to cool you down. So these can happen during the day, but the nighttime ones are referred to as night sweats. And these are, again, very common. Waking up and your sheets are just soaked. Then there's insomnia, super fun, right? As if that's not enough. We wake up in the middle of the night and sometimes we just can't get back to sleep. And I have a lot of great advice on that one. We can talk further. Vaginal dryness and low libido. Again, these kind of go hand in hand. Mood changes and irritability. Like you might already be a little moody before your period, but just kind of feeling that mental rage or just like this like anger.
Mhm.
Sometimes it shows up as anxiety too, is another really common one. Just kind of feeling like overwhelmed, panic attacks, heart palpitations. There might be some joint and muscle aches that creep in this time of life. Brain fog, so walking into a room and wondering, why was I here again?
Right.
That's happened to me quite a bit this week. And then weight gain, just, what's working before it wasn't working. And
Yeah.
then there's some really odd ones. So there might be some phantom smells, some burning tongue sensation, ringing in your ears, and just a whole nother group of symptoms.
This is so helpful, Carin. And I just have to imagine that if this is going on in a woman's life, she might recognize the hot flashes, but she may not recognize that sneaky night insomnia or the fatigue or
Yeah.
the burning tongue. She may not recognize that the mood swing or the irritability or the anger that she's feeling can all be related hormonally to this season called perimenopause. So this is really helpful because once we know something, obviously then we can do something about it. But just even knowing that, like I mentioned earlier, I struggled with some anxiety. Once I understood what was happening, part of the anxiety left me because
Yeah.
it was culminating and brewing because I didn't, what's going on with
Yeah,
me?
then you start to worry, like, is there something wrong with me? You have brain fog and you immediately think, am I losing my mind? Is this dementia? You have anxiety and you're like, am I having like some kind of mental health breakdown? And really just kind of, talking to your doctor, ruling aside any major issues like osteoporosis, any thyroid or heart issues, and then really getting to the point of, hey, my sex hormones are in flux and some of these are symptoms that come up because of that.
Absolutely. So, what kind of as I'm thinking about this, we might be afraid of it if they haven't hit perimenopause yet. What kind of mental attitude should we have as we're going through this? How do we build this resilience?
Oh, I love that question. I think that the biggest thing is just to realize that you are not alone, right? That
Yeah.
you're not going crazy. There's nothing wrong with you.
Kind
That
of
these
normalize
are
this, right?
exactly, yeah. And that we're all going through this. The tricky part is that we're all going through it in different kind of stages, or some symptoms might hit us more than others. So, what's troubling you might not be troubling your friend who's exactly the same age, right? And so, just realizing that we're all kind of on a unique journey through this process The same way, if you kind of go back in time, all of our puberties were very different, right? Like someone might have had acne issues, someone might have had more emotional issues. So, things can hit women in different ways. It's I always say like birth stories are all unique as well, right?
And
And
we love to
so
tell them, don't we?
exactly. Yeah. And same thing. Like this is just something we talk about, like girlfriend medicine. And so just realizing that we're not alone. And I think just having a lot of like, some patience and some grace with this and, kind of reframing it as, earning your stripes, right? Like that this is a
Yeah.
privilege to have gotten to this age and to have had these experiences. I'm a mom of three kids. I've had two businesses. I'm married. I really have had so many beautiful life journeys that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gotten to this age. So just really embracing this moment in life as a gift.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. Just celebrate where we are because we are kind of a culture that actually celebrates youth. And when we hit perimenopause, we're also really recognizing, and some women grieve, like I'm in a transition. And the body that I once knew and counted on, and the sharpness in my brain, or my vocabulary being right there on demand, like that's not exactly how it is right now. So to celebrate it and reframe it, I think is really powerful and great advice. What about lifestyle changes though? Should we also do something so we get the mental piece right? What about the physical stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, right? The biggest conversation, obviously, is talking to your menopause trained doctor around hormones, if that's something that you're looking into to help balance out some of these symptoms. And the biggest ones that you can start with are just simple, lifestyle changes. So, are you eating the right foods? Are you getting the right exercise? Are you taking care of your mental health? And are there any other tools that you can use to help navigate the symptoms that are causing you problems? In terms of diet, making sure that you're eating a whole foods diet balance, like you look at your plate and you could recognize these things as actual food products. So, cutting out any sugary and processed foods that we should be doing anyway for our health, right? And then, same things, at this age, I'm realizing that my relationship with alcohol has changed. And so I can't drink at night anymore. I still, will like to have a glass of wine or a cocktail during the day. But if I drink too late at night, it causes me to wake up and, causes more of that insomnia to kick in. And then caffeine as well. So I used to be a 2 cup a day drinker, and now I'm at zero, right? And I realized that if I was drinking too much caffeine, it caused me extra anxiety or jitters, or made me a little bit more irritable. And I find I have the exact same amount of energy as before. So I had this idea that I was using it for energy, but really I didn't need it at all. And then, same things, exercise, making sure that you're incorporating more weight bearing exercises, more weights in your routine. The cardio that we used to do when we were younger, it's still helpful, but we need to add in some weights to really strengthen the muscles surrounding our bones, especially our legs for women, to make sure that we have healthy bones. And then I would say, in terms of lifestyle adjustments, finding self care, maybe it's meditation or yoga or something that you can use to help calm your mind through some of these changes, because we are raising kids and taking care of elderly parents or dealing with loss and grief and running businesses or working. So there's a lot going on in this time of life. So really just finding, what is it that refills your cup? And then finally, sleep. So sleep is a big one, making sure you've optimized your sleep hygiene for your what you're putting into your body. So I mentioned caffeine, cutting it out, and alcohol. But what does your bedroom look like, right? Do you have some cooling sheets like what we sell on our site, which are fantastic? We also have cooling pillowcases. Maybe it is sleepwear that's very breathable, natural fabrics, making sure that you have an eye mask or blackout curtains, and then, blocking out any sounds from your partner with earplugs. And then just making sure that if you do wake up, just to give yourself a little grace around it and try to get back to sleep without, torturing yourself about not missing out on sleep, and listening to maybe a yoga nidra or something like that. So a lot of, modifications that you can do right now.
Yeah, beautiful advice. I tell my brain when I do wake up, I say, thank you for whatever alarm or purpose that you thought I needed to be awake, but put me back to sleep now. It's like, hey, this is not wake up time. So,
I love that. That's beautiful.
communicating and giving messages to your body and to your brain that, manages our nervous system. But that's so powerful. And like you said, that's just good for any part of life. Like that advice right there That's good for men too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just how to live healthy and strong and whole. And especially if you're in midlife, do not stop moving. Women, I talk about this all the time. You keep owning your body. Don't let it get away from you. Know that it all adds up accumulatively. But what about also, is there anything that you would suggest, like supplements? Or, I mean, a lot of my girlfriends would say, oh, you got to drink this tea. Oh, you got to do that. You got to do this. Like, so a lot of advice coming from all places. But what
Yeah.
about that?
So, yeah, I mean, first, I just want to go back on something you touched on men, which is interesting because men do have a decline in sex hormones around this age as well. So, it's something that
Hallelujah.
we share in common. It's called andropause, and it's a decline in testosterone, not as drastic or as volatile as our journey, but there is, similarities where they have insomnia, they have weight gain in their belly, they might have hair loss, they might have depression, anxiety. So, there's a lot that we can connect on as partners and just to realize like in aging that there's a shared experience here.
That is so good. And I don't want us to minimize that point that you're
Yeah.
bringing up because, we've called it the male midlife crisis or whatever, but that's a thing. It's real that their bodies, as well as ours, we're going through these transitions. And I'm so grateful that you're a voice out there. I think more people are talking about it today, but I call it the dark ages. Our moms and our grandmas, they just had to figure this out.
Yeah.
So, God bless you for talking about it. But yeah,
But yeah, so back to supplements. I think, the big ones are vitamin D, making sure you get your omega-3s, and these can come, from food or supplements if you don't feel like you're getting enough. I think one that's been helpful for me is taking magnesium at night for sleep. By the time, if I take it in the morning, it's absorbed, and so it doesn't have that same kind of calming effect for sleep. And so it's almost helped me through my night sweats. So if I am having them, I don't notice because I sleep so soundly. So that's been really helpful. But I don't really believe in like a one size fits all, like, hey, take this pill and, it will solve all of your issues. I mean, if we did, we'd all be like, miracle workers, right? So
you're right.
I think it's
Yeah.
just more about like, what does your body need? And so I encourage people to have a full blood panel workup at this stage in life through your doctor or otherwise. I couldn't find that through my doctor and my insurance. So I ended up using a website called Function Health. And you can just, choose your own adventure. Like, what is it that you want to test in terms of your biomarkers? And then you could just get those scheduled through a lab like Quest Diagnostics. And then you can track your progress, like make your lifestyle and diet modifications. And then 3 months later, test again. So I think that's really helpful.
That's great. I know we touched on it a little bit. I want to circle back just for a moment because you mentioned it, the weight gain. Our bodies change. What worked before doesn't work. So many of us will say, I used to be able to drop 5 pounds so fast, and now I can gain it that fast, but I can't drop it. So
Yeah.
we don't have to be stuck with menopausal or perimenopausal, postmenopausal weight gain, though. Is that true?
I think it's just, how you choose to attack it, right? And so, if you're noticing like, okay, this is happening to me and, accepting it versus saying, well, let me try some new things, right? Let me start a different food, a nutrition journey, right? Talk to a nutritionist or just really take a sense of what am I putting into my body? And, sometimes we go to Whole Foods and we see these like healthy snacks, but are they really healthy? It's just like taking something that's just been like overly processed and then fed back to you. So I think just making sure that we keep track of what we're eating and how we're eating. Are we mindful of our food too? Are we just like rushing through when we eat, or are we, really giving thanks for our food, taking a minute and even like a few deep breaths before you eat to lower your cortisol levels before so you're not like kind of like running and going so that your nutrients really get properly absorbed, making sure that you get enough protein throughout the day, and also incorporating different kinds of exercise. So maybe if you're just kind of in a rut always doing the exact same exercise, mix it up. I mean, even your weight trainers will do the same thing. Like you're not going over there every day and doing the exact same exercises. You've got to like kind of trick your body into using different muscle groups as well. So I think even just incorporating more movement throughout the day, that might be going for a walk, or if you take a lot of calls, consider just walking during those calls, or park farther in the parking lot than usual, or just these like lifestyle modifications that you can change that will help make a difference. I'm not
Yeah.
one to track steps or anything like that, but I think it's just more, how are you feeling okay? Is your body mass index okay? your health okay? Versus, oh, I can fit into these jeans, right?
Yeah, that's really wise because, again, our bodies are changing, and maybe up until now, we haven't had to be so dogmatic and tracking things, and we didn't have to monitor this or that, but we do have to steward these midlife bodies, and that
Yeah.
does
These
require,
are our vessels, I say, right?
yeah.
Like this is our vessel for the journey. We take care of our cars, we do oil changes, tune-ups, and so it's like this is it. This is our time to take care of our body, especially now, so that we have energy and ability to take care of those that we love. Yeah, I think it's a big one.
Yeah. We do. We have to have the energy and the ability to take care of the people that we love. I was speaking to a woman the other day and I said, a lot of women feel like they're being selfish and, for self-care, like, I've got all these other people I have to put first. And she said, I like to think of it as not self care even, but self-cellular care,
Wow.
cellular care. Just take care of your body. You get one.
I
And
love
then
that.
that's it. And I like the way she said cellular care. I thought that
Yeah.
was really powerful too. So, and I know there's some voices, our time is almost gone. I hate
Oh, it
how
goes so
fast it
fast.
goes. I know. But there are some really powerful voices out there, like Dr. Mindy is
Mindy
out
Pelt.
there.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
she talks about
Sharon Muscone. There's Dr. Mary Claire Haver over at
Mary
the New
Claire.
Menopause. That's on our book as well. Wonderful, wonderful resource. If you haven't read it, I encourage people to read.
Yes. So, and those are things that you have on your site, correct? So we're going to direct them over there. You talked
Yeah.
about protein and how, we really need to be getting like at least 90 grams plus of protein in our body every day.
Mhm.
And that, by the way, probably won't happen unless we are really being careful to track it. I know
Yeah.
I
I mean,
don't
a big
often.
one is just, I don't know about you, but like, having had a big family as well. So we pre-batch our meals on Sundays. We just cook and we put everything in Tupperware for the week. And so it's not a surprise what we're going to have for lunch each day or dinner each day. So it's just sort of like we already know it's a healthy meal because we spent the time on Sundays to make it.
See, that's living on purpose. And when you live that way, you get the results. We all get the results of our system. And you go, well, I don't have a system. Exactly. You're getting those results. But if you have a
Love
beautiful
that.
system like that, you're going to get those results. And that's awesome, actually. So, parting words as you leave us today, what is the thing that you'd like our listeners to really have stick to their heart and ribs?
Oh, thank you. I think the biggest takeaway is just to know that you're not alone, that this is, shared universal experience for all women, and that we will all go through this stage, and so that we don't have to do it by ourselves, that we are natural community makers between our friends, online, wherever that is, and that knowing that there are other women in the world going through exactly what you're dealing with. And I hope that that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. Share
Yeah.
with us where we can find you, and you're offering us a little discount.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all the symptoms we discussed today, we have some products and resources available at hotorjustme.com, as well as a 50 article resource library for everything that you might need to navigate some of these symptoms. We have a discount code for Bravehearted is the 10% off code that you use at checkout. And we can be found on all socials at Hot or Just Me.
Wonderful. My guest today, Carin, thank you so much for being with us. You are truly a brave-hearted woman, and we thank you. Hey, listeners, make sure, you beautiful women, that you get over there to her website and take advantage of those things. And I'm going to leave you like I always do, Dawn Damon, your Braveheart mentor, asking you, is this your moment to find your brave and live your dreams?